Before CGI conquered everything and streaming killed appointment television, the 1970s were animation's weirdest decade, when independent creators armed with shoestring budgets and experimental ideas created TV specials that bent minds and broke rules. These weren't your safe Disney productions or Saturday morning commercials disguised as cartoons. They were trippy, ambitious, and completely insane experiments that dared to treat animation as art. Number 12. The Gift of Winter, 1974. The premise. A group of colorfully named characters march to the Ministry of Winter to complain about cold, snowless seasons and accidentally prevent an assassination attempt. Canadian television's strangest export emerged from John Leach and Isabel Jean Rankin's Toronto studio with production values that made construction paper look expensive. The Gift of Winter is a CBC animated Christmas special that premiered on November 19, 1974. Characters named Goodly, Nicely, Rotten and Malicious journey through a bureaucratic nightmare that feels like South Park's fever dream about government offices. The special featured early performances from Saturday Night Live's Dan Aykroyd and Gilda Radner, who voiced multiple characters in an animation style that looked like a 4-year-old's doodles brought to life. 2 characters actually planned to assassinate Winter using dynamite, making it possibly the only Christmas special to feature terrorism as a plot device. NBC somehow agreed to broadcast this fever dream to American audiences, who had no context for its Canadian weirdness. Critics described the finished product as construction paper cutouts that resembled early Sesame Street shorts, but with more political subversion. The animation looked almost like construction paper cutouts, and the whole thing was reminiscent of early Sesame Street shorts. Viewers either embraced its experimental charm or dismissed it as incomprehensible nonsense. There was no middle ground. The unforgettable moment. Winter crying tears of snow when he realizes he's lonely, creating the first snowfall in human history. Achieved through hand-drawn animation that somehow made bureaucratic emotions visually compelling. The special cost roughly $15,000 to produce, but generated international interest as an example of animation's experimental potential. Its sequel, Witch's Night Out, became far more successful, proving that weird Canadian animation could find audiences when properly marketed. The Gift of Winter remains a fascinating artifact of the 1970s creative freedom. 11. Witch's Night Out, 1978. The premise: a depressed witch transforms children into real monsters for Halloween, accidentally creating chaos when the town forms an angry mob. The sequel to The Gift of Winter upgraded its animation budget while maintaining its experimental edge. Witch's Night Out is a Canadian animated television Halloween special that premiered on NBC October 27, 1978. Produced in a Toronto studio, it featured an electronic disco-influenced score that sounded like Electric Light Orchestra meets haunted house effects, creating an otherworldly atmosphere that perfectly captured late 1970s cosmic weirdness. Gilda Radner voiced the titular witch with manic energy that brought genuine personality to the bizarre character designs. The special featured the voices of Fiona Reed as Nicely and Catherine O'Hara as Malicious, with Gilda Radner as the titular witch. Her performance alone elevated material that could have been dismissed as children's television filler into something genuinely entertaining for adults. The special aired annually on Disney Channel from 1983 to the late 1990s, introducing new generations to its psychedelic Halloween vision. It later aired on the Disney Channel every year from 1983 to the late 1990s. The electronic soundtrack and squiggly character designs created a unique aesthetic that felt like a cosmic Halloween party, designed by aliens who'd studied Earth culture through old television broadcasts. NBC executives worried about the show's mature themes, but recognized its entertainment value for both children and adults. The plot balances child-friendly adventure with sophisticated humor that rewards adult viewers, creating a rare family special that doesn't condescend to either demographic. The unforgettable moment, the witch's dramatic entrance, crashing through glass to answer the children's Halloween wish, a special effects sequence that inspired countless imitators but never equaled the original's manic energy. Production costs reached $40,000, but the special generated millions in syndication revenue over its decades-long broadcast history. The copyright holders remain vigilant about unauthorized online distribution, demonstrating its continued commercial value. Witch's Night Out proved that experimental animation could achieve mainstream success without sacrificing creative vision. Chapter 10. Raggedy Ann and Andy, The Great Santa Claus Caper, 1978. The premise: the beloved dolls battle an efficiency expert wolf who plans to encase Santa's toys in gloopstick and charge children for Christmas presents. Chuck Jones, the Warner Brothers legend behind Bugs Bunny's greatest cartoons, applied his experimental sensibilities to this half-hour Christmas special. In this Raggedy Ann and Andy Christmas treat, an efficiency expert, Alexander Graham Wolfe, has plans to take over jolly old St. Nick's toy workshop. The special featured Jones's trademark attention to timing and character development, even within a children's Christmas framework. The villain, Alexander Graham Wolfe, represented corporate efficiency threatening Christmas joy, a theme that resonated during the economically turbulent 1970s. Alexander, the wolf, is using an ACME-type machine to encase all the toys in blocks of a glass, like a substance he calls gloopstick. The ACME Corporation reference connected the special to Jones's Roadrunner cartoons while addressing contemporary concerns about commercialization destroying holiday magic. Jones's animation team created elaborate mechanical sequences showing Wolfe's gloopstick machine that demonstrated the director's technical mastery. The special combined classic cartoon violence with genuine emotional stakes as Raggedy Ann and Andy fought to preserve Christmas spirit against corporate greed. Voice actors included June Foray and Dawes Butler, animation legends who brought credibility to the toy characters. The production benefited from Jones's connections at Warner Brothers, accessing studio resources that elevated the animation quality above typical television specials. Chuck Jones animation fanatics and Christmas movie fans will want this classic in their collection. The special's visual creativity demonstrated that television animation could achieve theatrical quality when properly funded and directed. The unforgettable moment: the gloopstick machine's elaborate mechanical sequences where Jones's technical animation skills created Rube Goldberg-style contraptions that were both threatening and hilarious. Warner Brothers invested $200,000 in production, expecting Jones's reputation to guarantee audience attention. The special achieved modest success, but demonstrated that even animation legends couldn't automatically create hits in television's increasingly competitive landscape. The Great Santa Claus Caper remains a fascinating example of theatrical talent adapting to television constraints. 9. The 9 Lives of Fritz the Cat, 1974. The premise: Ralph Bakshi's controversial feline antihero returns for marijuana-fueled fantasies about alternative lives, without Bakshi's involvement. The sequel to animation's first X-rated feature film arrived without its creator's participation or approval. The 9 Lives of Fritz the Cat is a 1974 American adult animated anthology, black comedy film directed by Robert Taylor as a sequel to Ralph Bakshi's Fritz the Cat, 1972. Producer Steve Krantz commissioned the sequel despite Bakshi's refusal to participate, hiring animator Robert Taylor to direct a project that attempted to recapture the original's controversial success. The film adopted an anthology structure, presenting Fritz's cannabis-induced fantasies as separate vignettes connected by his domestic misery. Like the first film, The 9 Lives of Fritz the Cat focuses on Fritz, voiced by Hinnant, a fraudulent womanizer and leftist who is shown in this film to have married an ill-tempered woman named Gabrielle, with whom he shares an apartment room with their infant son. This narrative framework allowed the filmmakers to explore various genres and time periods while maintaining the Fritz character. The sequel earned an R rating instead of the original's X, making it the first American animated film to receive that designation. In contrast to the first film receiving an X rating, the sequel got an R rating, being the first American animated film to do so. This ratings milestone demonstrated animation's evolving relationship with adult content and censorship standards. Critics dismissed the sequel as inferior to Bakshi's original, lacking both the political bite and artistic vision that made Fritz the Cat historically significant. Time Out described the film as being woefully inept. The film's failure proved that controversy alone couldn't sustain a franchise without creative vision behind it. The unforgettable moment, Fritz's transformation sequence where reality melts into fantasy, showcasing the animator's technical skill while revealing the character's psychological desperation. The film cost $500,000 to produce, but failed commercially, earning less than $2 million in theatrical release. Its failure effectively ended the Fritz the Cat franchise and demonstrated that adult animation required more than shock value to succeed. The 9 Lives of Fritz the Cat remains a cautionary tale about sequels without creative input from original creators. The Point, 1971. The premise: in a world where everything has a point, a round-headed boy named Oblio gets banished and learns that being different has its own value. Harry Nilsson's psychedelic fairy tale began as a concept album before becoming animation's most philosophical children's special. The story emerged from Nilsson's LSD-influenced vision of a society obsessed with conformity, where pointy-headed people exile anyone different. The special aired on ABC with Dustin Hoffman narrating the original broadcast, though subsequent versions featured different celebrity narrators. The animation style blended traditional cell animation with experimental techniques that created a dreamlike visual landscape. Fred Wolf's animation team used limited budgets creatively, employing stylized character designs and psychedelic backgrounds that maximized visual impact while minimizing costs. The result looked like a storybook illustration brought to life through animation magic. The special's soundtrack featured Nilsson's complete concept album, including the hit song "Me and My Arrow" that became a radio staple. The integration of music and narrative created a unified artistic vision that influenced future animated musicals. Critics praised the special's mature themes disguised as children's entertainment, recognizing its sophisticated exploration of individuality versus conformity. ABC executives worried about the special's drug-influenced imagery, but recognized its artistic merit and potential audience appeal. The network supported the project despite concerns about psychedelic content reaching children's television, demonstrating 1970s broadcasting's willingness to experiment with unconventional programming. The unforgettable moment: Oblio's journey through the pointless forest, where surreal creatures teach him that purpose comes from within rather than external appearance, animated with flowing organic shapes that contrasted sharply with the geometric kingdom he'd left behind. The special cost $350,000 to produce, but generated millions in album sales and merchandising revenue. ABC's investment proved worthwhile when The Point became a recurring television special, airing annually for decades. The project demonstrated that concept albums could successfully transition to television while maintaining their artistic integrity. 7 Dr. Seuss on the Loose, 1973. The premise: 3 classic Dr. Seuss stories. The Sneetches, the Zacks, and Green Eggs and Ham received animated treatment that captured the author's subversive social commentary. Departier-Freleng Enterprises, the animation studio behind Pink Panther cartoons, adapted Seuss's work with sophisticated understanding of his political allegories. 3 Dr. Seuss stories hosted by the Cat in the Hat showcased the animator's ability to visualize Seuss's distinctive artistic style while preserving his message about tolerance and acceptance. The special won a Peabody Award for Excellence in Children's Programming. Ellen Sherman's narration as the Cat in the Hat provided connecting tissue between the 3 stories while maintaining Seuss's playful tone. The cat served as both host and social commentator, introducing each segment with rhyming commentary that prepared viewers for the deeper meanings within seemingly simple children's stories. The Sneetches tackled racial prejudice through star-bellied aliens, making complex social issues accessible to children while entertaining adults with its political sophistication. The animation visualized Seuss's original illustrations with remarkable fidelity, creating movement that felt natural to characters originally designed for static images. The Zacks explored stubborn prejudice through creatures who refused to change direction, becoming a metaphor for social progress. CBS executives recognized the special's educational value while appreciating its entertainment quality, creating a rare example of television programming that achieved both commercial and critical success. The network's support for Seuss adaptations demonstrated television's potential for meaningful children's programming during an era increasingly dominated by toy commercial cartoons. The unforgettable moment, the Starbelly machine sequence in The Sneetches, where rapid costume changes create visual chaos that mirrors the story's message about the arbitrariness of social distinctions. De Patier-Freleng invested $150,000 in production costs, but generated significant revenue through repeated broadcasts and international sales. The special's success led to additional Seuss adaptations, establishing animated television as a viable medium for translating classic children's literature. Dr. Seuss on the Loose proved that educational content could compete with purely commercial programming. Dar 6. The Phantom Tollbooth, 1970. The premise: a bored young boy drives through a magical toll booth into a world where words and numbers wage war, learning that curiosity conquers apathy. Chuck Jones and Abe Levitow adapted Norton Juster's philosophical novel into animation that challenged children's programming conventions. The story followed Milo, a boy bored with everything, who discovers a world where language and mathematics conflict, requiring his intervention to restore balance. The film blended live action and animation, creating visual transitions that demonstrated Jones's technical innovation. The voice cast included Butch Patrick, Eddie Munster as Milo, lending television credibility to a theatrical quality production. Hans Conried voiced multiple characters, including the villainous Demons of Ignorance, showcasing the voice actor's range while creating distinct personalities for abstract concepts. Mel Blanc contributed his expertise to background characters, elevating the overall performance quality. Jones's animation team created elaborate fantasy sequences that visualized complex philosophical concepts through character design and movement. The Land of Expectations, the Doldrums, and the Mountains of Ignorance became distinct visual environments that supported the story's educational goals while entertaining viewers with creative imagery. MGM invested heavily in the production, expecting Jones's reputation and the source material's literary credentials to attract both children and adult audiences. The studio promoted the film as family entertainment that respected children's intelligence while providing sophisticated humor for adults. Critics praised the adaptation's faithfulness to Juster's vision while acknowledging its visual innovation. The unforgettable moment, Milo's encounter with the Demons of Ignorance, where abstract fears took monstrous forms that were genuinely frightening, yet ultimately conquerable through knowledge and courage. The film cost $1.2 million to produce, but failed commercially in theaters, leading to its eventual transition to television, where it found its intended audience. Home video sales eventually recovered production costs, demonstrating the project's long-term value despite initial commercial disappointment. The Phantom Tollbooth remains a testament to animation's potential for adapting complex literature. Chapter 5. Here Comes Peter Cottontail, 1971. The premise: an incompetent Easter bunny travels through time to save his job, visiting various holidays while learning responsibility and courage. Rankin Bass Productions applied their stop-motion expertise to Easter programming, creating the studio's second most successful holiday special after Rudolph. The story featured Peter Cottontail's time-traveling adventures through a magical train that visited different holidays, allowing the animators to showcase various seasonal settings and character designs. Danny Kaye narrated with warmth and humor that connected disparate story elements. The villain Irontail represented mechanized efficiency threatening natural celebration, reflecting 1970s environmental concerns disguised as children's entertainment. The character's industrial design contrasted sharply with the organic forest creatures, creating visual metaphors about technology versus nature that resonated with contemporary audiences worried about environmental destruction. Rankin Bass's animagic stop-motion process created three-dimensional characters that moved with weight and personality impossible in traditional cell animation. The studio's attention to detail in puppet construction and set design elevated television production values to theatrical quality, demonstrating that small-screen animation could achieve cinematic sophistication. ABC promoted the special heavily, recognizing Rankin Bass's track record with holiday programming and the potential for Easter-themed content to compete with Christmas specials. The network's investment in promotional campaigns helped establish Here Comes Peter Cottontail as annual programming that generated consistent ratings for decades. The unforgettable moment. Peter's time travel sequence through the Yester-Morrowland Express, where stop-motion animation created impossible transformations that showcased the medium's magical possibilities. Rankin Bass invested $250,000 in production costs, but generated millions in licensing revenue through repeated broadcasts and merchandising opportunities. The special's success established Easter as viable holiday programming territory, inspiring numerous imitators. Here Comes Peter Cottontail proved that non-Christmas holiday specials could achieve mainstream success with proper production values and marketing support. Chuck 4. Horton Hears a Who, 1970. The premise: Dr. Seuss's elephant discovers microscopic civilization on a speck of dust, defending their right to exist against skeptical neighbors. Chuck Jones and Ben Washam adapted Seuss's allegory about protecting minority rights into animation that preserved the story's political urgency. Horton Hears a Who served as a metaphor for civil rights struggles while entertaining children with imaginative visuals and memorable characters. The special won a Peabody Award for Outstanding Children's Programming that addressed serious social issues. Hans Conried voiced Horton with gentle authority that made the elephant's determination believable while maintaining the character's essential kindness. The voice actor's performance balanced comedy with genuine emotion, creating a character children could admire while adults appreciated his moral courage. June Foray provided voices for multiple Whoville residents, demonstrating her versatility and vocal range. Jones's animation team visualized Seuss's distinctive artistic style while adding motion that felt organic to characters originally designed for books. The animators solved the challenge of making microscopic Who's visible and relatable while maintaining the story's scale relationships. The Whoville sequences required innovative camera work that suggested vast civilizations within tiny spaces. MGM supported the production with theatrical quality budgets, recognizing Jones's reputation and Seuss's commercial appeal. The studio expected the combination of respected source material and proven animation talent to attract family audiences seeking quality entertainment. Critics praised the adaptation's faithfulness to Seuss's vision while acknowledging its visual sophistication. The unforgettable moment, the We Are Here climax, where microscopic voices unite to save their civilization, creating an emotionally powerful sequence that demonstrated animation's ability to make abstract concepts concrete and moving. The special cost $400,000 to produce, but generated significant revenue through television broadcasts and educational sales. Schools adopted the special as teaching material about tolerance and minority rights, extending its cultural impact beyond entertainment. Horton Hears a Who proved that animated adaptations could enhance rather than diminish classic literature's social messages. For 3. The Crunch Bird, 1971. The premise? A pet store customer receives more than he bargained for when his new bird demonstrates an aggressive appetite for destruction. Len Jansen and Chuck Menville created this Academy Award-winning short that satirized pet ownership while showcasing technical animation excellence. The Crunch Bird compressed feature film storytelling into 12 minutes, creating character development and narrative surprise that influenced countless animated shorts. The film won the Oscar for Best Animated Short Film, demonstrating that independent animation could compete with studio productions. The short's premise began innocently enough. A man buys a bird for his wife, before escalating into surreal violence that pushed animation's boundaries while maintaining comedic tone. The bird's increasingly destructive behavior created escalating conflict that parodied domestic horror films while remaining appropriate for general audiences. The animation team achieved maximum impact through minimal character design and strategic timing. Ted Eccles voiced the pet store owner with matter-of-fact delivery that contrasted hilariously with the bird's manic behavior. The vocal performance grounded the increasingly absurd situation in recognizable human behavior, making the fantastic elements more believable. Sound effects played crucial roles in creating the bird's personality without traditional dialogue. The independent production demonstrated that small animation studios could create content superior to major studio output when freed from commercial constraints. Jansen and Menville financed the short independently, maintaining creative control that allowed them to pursue their vision without network interference. Their success inspired other independent animators to attempt similar projects. The Unforgettable Moment, the bird's first destructive act, where innocent pet ownership transforms into domestic chaos through perfectly timed animation that builds tension before delivering the comedic payoff. The short cost $50,000 to produce, but generated hundreds of thousands in distribution revenue while establishing its creators' reputations in the animation industry. Academy Award recognition led to additional commercial opportunities for Jansen and Menville, demonstrating independent animation's commercial viability. The Crunch Bird proved that creative vision and technical execution could overcome budget limitations. Sugar 2. The Dot and the Line. A Romance in Lower Mathematics, 1965, continued relevance. The premise: a straight line falls in love with a dot, competing with a wild scribble in this mathematical love story that defined animation's artistic potential. Chuck Jones adapted Norton Juster's book into an Academy Award-winning short that elevated animation to high art. Though created in 1965, the film gained new appreciation throughout the 1970s as animation began receiving serious critical attention. The story used geometric shapes to explore themes of self-improvement, creativity, and romantic competition through purely visual storytelling. Robert Morley's narration provided sophisticated literary commentary that treated geometric characters with the same respect given to human protagonists. The voice work elevated potentially dry mathematical concepts into genuine emotional drama, creating investment in abstract characters through exceptional performance. The narration balanced humor with genuine pathos as the line struggled to win the dot's affection. Jones's animation team created movement and personality for geometric shapes that should have been impossible to characterize. The line's transformation from rigid straight path to flowing artistic curves demonstrated animation's power to visualize abstract concepts through motion and timing. Technical innovation supported emotional storytelling in ways that influenced decades of subsequent animated films. MGM recognized the short's artistic merit while appreciating its commercial potential as prestige programming. The studio's support for experimental animation demonstrated corporate willingness to invest in projects that enhanced the medium's reputation rather than merely generating immediate profits. Critical acclaim validated animation as legitimate artistic expression. The unforgettable moment. The line's geometric evolution into increasingly complex curves and patterns, where mathematical precision became artistic expression through animation that made abstract concepts emotionally resonant. The short cost $75,000 to produce, but generated millions in educational and artistic distribution revenue over subsequent decades. Film schools adopted the short as teaching material about visual storytelling and character development, extending its influence beyond entertainment. The dot and the line proved that animation could achieve artistic recognition equal to live-action cinema. Dubbed 1. A Charlie Brown Christmas, 1965, continued innovation. The premise: Charlie Brown's search for Christmas meaning leads to theological contemplation disguised as children's entertainment, changing television animation forever. Bill Melendez and Lee Mendelsohn created the template for thoughtful children's programming that respected audiences' intelligence while addressing serious spiritual questions. Though produced in 1965, the special's influence throughout the 1970s established animation as viable medium for sophisticated content. The special's jazz soundtrack and minimalist animation style influenced countless subsequent productions. Vince Guaraldi's jazz score elevated television animation music from simple background accompaniment to integral artistic element. The sophisticated musical arrangements created emotional depth that supported Charles M. Schulz's philosophical themes while entertaining viewers with memorable melodies. The soundtrack became a best-selling album that introduced jazz to younger audiences. Linus's nativity speech provided genuine theological content rarely seen in children's programming, demonstrating television's potential for meaningful religious expression. The Scene balanced entertainment with education, creating programming that satisfied both secular and religious audiences. The special's spiritual content influenced subsequent holiday programming to address deeper themes. CBS executives worried about the special's unconventional approach, but recognized Schulz's commercial success and the potential for prestige programming. The network's support for experimental content demonstrated television's willingness to risk innovation when supported by proven talent. The special's success established precedent for thoughtful children's programming. The Unforgettable Moment, Linus's explanation of Christmas meaning, where animated character delivered genuine spiritual content that elevated television programming while maintaining accessibility for all audiences. The special cost $96,000 to produce, but generated hundreds of millions in revenue through 5 decades of annual broadcasts. Its success established Christmas programming as lucrative television content while proving that quality animation could achieve both commercial and critical success. A Charlie Brown Christmas demonstrated that animated television could match live-action programming's artistic and cultural significance. These 12 innovative specials proved that 1970s animation was far more than Saturday morning filler. They were laboratories where artists experimented with storytelling, technique, and audience expectations. From philosophical fairy tales to mathematical romances, these productions pushed boundaries while entertaining millions. Which of these forgotten gems deserves streaming resurrection? And what weird 1970s animated special still haunts your childhood memories? Drop a comment below and defend your favorite experimental animation, because the decade that gave us Disco and Watergate also created television's most innovative cartoons.